Hey, a really warm welcome to this episode with very special guests that we've got from Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living, and this is Nisha Burton and Norma Burton. So we are going to be talking about things lucid, dreaming, menstrual cycles. We're just going to just go with the flow, but I really wanted to introduce Nisha and Norma because their work is so full of love, integrity, purpose, traditions. So we've got Norma here. Norma is a counselor with a degree in comparative religion, focusing on Buddhist and shamanic traditions, who specializes in trauma healing, shadow work, and dream analysis. Having apprenticed with Indigenous elders for over 30 years, she founded the Journey to Completion Institute of Ancient Healing Arts and the Circle of Trust Healing Centre. And Nisha is your daughter, and she's a skilled dream worker, trained in the art of journeying into the deep subconscious from a young age. For the past decade, she's been immersed in the practice of lucid dreaming. She's also an award-winning filmmaker and branding and emerging technologies consultant for Fortune 100 companies. She's a speaker and a teacher at universities, so big credentials. But my first question is, do you remember your dream from last night? What was you dreaming about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
good
great
question.
first question.
When I wake up like about 5 a.m. and then I go back to sleep, then those dreams between 5:30 and 8 a.m. are always more vivid. When I wake up at 8, then I tend to remember them more, and they tend to speak to something that's going on in my life. So it was one of those typical transportation dreams. I don't know if any of you have those, but like dreaming of trying to get on, in this case, it was a bus, it could be an airplane, that I was late and things were going wrong and there were lots of obstacles in the way and I was trying to make it work for everybody. And I think that relates to my situation that I'm in here, trying to take care of my elder parents here who are in their 90s. And today we have to take them to a doctor's appointment. And I was nervous about that. So it seemed very much to relate to my anxiety about what's going to be happening today. But sometimes when you can work it out in the dream time, then I could wake up and realize, oh, I do feel anxious about what's happening today. Let me calm down and talk to myself and try to get ready for this day in a good way. So I was thankful for the dream, even though it was not an easy one to have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it helps you in your waking hours.
it helped me. Yeah.
I love that example too of how you remember your dreams closer to when you wake up, because that is something we tell people just scientifically the way your brain works, you have more REM sleep the further along you are in your sleep cycle. So if people are trying to remember their dreams, you can wake yourself up like an hour or two before you would normally wake up and then go back to sleep, and you'll be more likely to collect those dreams in that time, an hour or two before you usually wake up. So for me, I often have dreams in that early period of time in the morning, right when I'm about to wake up, that are like picking up the radio waves of what's going on in the external world. And this morning, I was having a dream about, I'm a filmmaker, and I was having a dream all about making this film, and it was a big film, and I was helping to direct it and putting all the pieces together, all the characters together. And then once I woke up and we were having breakfast with our family, the first conversation that I didn't start was all about my mom and my grandpa talking about my filmmaking career and how I should go for it further in the directing world and all of this. So that's an example. A lot of times I'll pick up on things that are about to happen in the waking reality in my dream right before I wake up.
Okay, this might be blowing people's minds. Where do we go with this? What can you share with your personal experience and your understanding? What's the purpose of dreaming? And what's the difference between dreaming and lucid dreaming?
Yeah, that's a great question because the purpose of dreaming is that we need to process things during the night, just like our body is processing nutrients in our food and cleansing us, right? There are all these cleansing processes going on biologically in our gut during the night. Same thing is happening in our brains. So whether people know that they remember their dreams or not, they are dreaming. That's been scientifically proven, right? That everybody is dreaming, but it's just a matter of remembering them. But the purpose is that we've got to work on the material of our lives and get this input from higher dimensions too. Because, right, at night we're going into the dream time, which is an altered state. It's a opening to the dimensions beyond our ordinary reality. So, like Einstein, he said that he got the answers to all of his mathematical equations from going into the sleep time, the dream time, and then getting these answers and coming back and applying them in ordinary reality. And that's really what we're all doing. We're needing to have that access to higher consciousness and also cleanse our pain and our wounds and our problems and get answers for those and healing. So every night, isn't that amazing that every night we're being healed and we're being given insights about what to do better in the next day or in our lives?
Yeah, and building off of that, we're also working with our subconscious mind. And so much of our lives are directed by the subconscious, but our conscious mind and our subconscious mind don't interact with each other very much. And so in the dream time, you have the ability to go in and see what's there. Even with non-lucid dreams, you can see what material is presenting itself. But with lucidity, which I'll define really quickly, a lucid dream is one in which you know beyond a doubt that you are dreaming within the dream. So you can have a semi-lucid dream where you might think, oh, maybe I could be dreaming, and you wake up and you have a sense, oh, yes, I think actually I was dreaming and I knew it. But a lucid dream, a fully lucid dream, is like a light switch being clicked on within your dream, and you have that aha moment where you stop and you think, could I be dreaming? And then you realize, yes, I am dreaming, and I know I'm dreaming within the dream. And from there, the quality of the dream changes. You're able to really viscerally feel like you're actually there, like it's very real. And you have this level of agency because you know that you're dreaming, then you can do things that before, when you were just immersed in the dream material, not knowing it was a dream, you couldn't do. And so it's a perfect opportunity to be able to talk directly with your subconscious, to interact in these realms of expanded awareness with lucidity. So it's a really beautiful and exciting experience to have for people. And many people wake up feeling so enlivened after having a lucid dream because it's powerful.
There's so much potential there, isn't there? That a lot of people just think when we're asleep, nothing's happening. But you've spoke about the body physically heals when we sleep, so it's so necessary, but also those high levels of consciousness and going into the subconscious, which is, would you say, is shadow work?
Oh, yes. Well, that's a good point because what is the shadow, right? But things that we don't see that are behind us or we can't see them in our waking state. So when we go into the dreams, like Nisha says, the subconscious is available then to us and is trying desperately to show us things. Like every single symbol that comes up in a dream is meaningful, and it's giving you something of information from your shadow realms that you didn't know about. So if people, for example, are having nightmares, well, it's because there's a hurt child in there. There's a wounded person in there that's saying, look at this, I'm crying, I'm hurt. Please pay attention to this. So always the unconscious is trying to give us information from the shadow realms. And we can deal with that. We can. We're structured in such a way that we're meant to be able to receive these messages, even though they're hard ones from the unconscious, and to understand them and then to integrate them into healing practice in our lives. Sometimes you might need to go to a therapist and get the help with understanding them and with how to change your life and integrate them. That's what I do for my daily work, is be with people about their problems and the dreams coming up and help them to heal them in ordinary reality. So we've got to bring the information back into our ordinary lives and then work on it to heal ourselves. But that's the shadow work is what I specialize in. Yeah.
And related to working with your dreams and bringing that information back, a big part of what we teach too is for people to learn their particular dream language,
Mhm.
the language that their dreams speak to them in. And a lot of people can feel excited about going out and looking at dream dictionaries or trying to find things online. And that's not bad. It's a good place to start. But really, your subconscious is speaking to you in a particular language with particular symbols that are specific to you. So, learning by tracking your dreams, learning what your dream signs are, learning what particular images appear often and what they relate to in your waking reality, that's a big part of dream work, just for dream work in general. And then for lucid dreaming, it becomes even more important because that's what you track in order to become lucid.
Yeah, like one example is coming to my mind of I was executive director of my healing center. I was getting ready to hire somebody in a very important administrative position there. And I had a dream that this woman doctor I was about to hire had the face of this other woman from the past. And that other woman had caused me a lot of problems in different ways, that she was not honest and so forth. And this new person that I was going to be hiring had her face. So when I woke up, it was like the dream time was telling me, wait a minute, be careful, because this person might be a repeat of that person in the past. And I would not have known that consciously. I would never have thought of that consciously, but my dreams were showing me. So the dreams really can warn us and make us be more alert and smarter with our decisions.
All the answers that we need really are within. It's just about being able to depict it. But there's so much there already. I wondered if we can just share with everyone a little bit more about like how you come to be in this work, about your backgrounds, and perhaps we can then move on to your Oracle card deck as well. So yeah, would you share a little bit more about your background?
Definitely. Yeah, I can start off. So I always talk about how I'm so blessed to have come from a lineage of dreamers and to be raised by my mom and now be working with her in this work. Because a lot of people in our culture are trained to disregard the dream time. Oh, that was just a dream. That's something you'll hear a lot growing up. But for me, I was really trained to hold the dream time in high esteem, to realize that it was just as important as my waking reality, and the two were really informing one another. So from a young age, my mom would lead tours all around the world to sacred sites to study with various wisdom keepers and indigenous elders, and I would go with her. And so I got to have this very multicultural upbringing where I was seeing other cultures that really put importance on the dream time along with waking reality and saw them as two halves of a whole of human consciousness and the realms that we go into every single cycle of the day and night. And seeing that, being raised in that way, I valued my dreams from a young age. And so I had a lot of lucid dreams. I had a lot of incredible experiences, and I wasn't fed the messaging, oh, don't pay attention to that. It's not important. Then when I got into my 20s was when I really became interested in lucid dreaming. And it came through this feeling, it was a bit of an existential crisis around, I'm going to die someday. And what does that mean? What happens after that? Where does my consciousness go? And then realizing every night I'm going into the space of nonlinear time, of less form in this reality. And I was learning and studying about Tibetan Buddhism, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, dream yoga, which is a whole practice around using lucid dreaming for spiritual attainment, and also found Stephen LaBerge, his works, and he's a lucid dream teacher from the scientific side of things. He worked at Stanford and was one of the key people in proving lucid dreaming was actually possible, because before scientists thought, no, you can't turn that part of your brain back on once it's asleep. And so getting into that, I really took off in lucid dreaming. I did the daytime practices that you do to train your brain to lucid dream at night, which we can talk about a little bit later. And I became a really skilled lucid dreamer. And I was having all of these incredible experiences and then felt really passionate about teaching others how to access this place in themselves, because I saw how much transformation could happen on the psychological level, on the spiritual level, and even how it carries over. You think, oh, it's just a lucid dream, that's not a big deal. But what you're doing in that space really can impact your waking reality and how you move through waking reality, which is why we named our brand Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living. It's about both integrated together.
When I was a child, I was in that state of being in both worlds. I think a lot of children are, but they just don't get it validated. But I could be walking along in the beautiful grassy meadow and see a being coming towards me and talk to it and play with it. And then every time I would walk to that same spot in the meadow, that same being would come out and talk with me. And I was so lucky because I had a grandmother who was very psychic and magically minded, and I could tell her those things. So I was lucky to have an adult who would believe me and listen to me and didn't squelch it or push it away. And as I got older and was in college, I wanted to study mysticism. I thought, who are the mystics? They must have known these kinds of dream type experiences. But at that time in the 70s in Western culture, there was hardly anything written about mysticism. You could only find like St. John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila, just a couple of books. So that led me to Eastern studies. So that really made me want to go to the Far East. And I ended up living in Japan for many years and got to study deeply into more mystical consciousness, and then to Brazil and studied. It's an amazing place in Brazil. And I hear you just were recently in India, but there are these vortex places in the world where the dream time and ordinary reality are much more back and forth and accepted by humans, that that's who we are, that we're these bigger beings that have access to these other realms. So by going to another culture and, as Nisha said, then leading tours and meeting with shamans and teachers all over the world, it validated that there are these capabilities that we have as humans that we need to develop, and that our Western culture, for whatever all the reasons are, has really squelched that for hundreds of years. So we're at the effect of that denial of our abilities and access. The witchcraft trials that took place, a lot has happened to squelch the knowledge and to make people be afraid to have access to that information. And so it's exciting that we're now in times when there are hundreds and thousands of books on mysticism, right? And on dreaming and on shamanism. And in the last 30 years, all of these topics have come back up to the fore. And we're living in a time of great access to so much teaching and information. So, yeah, we're happy to be in the flow of all of that.
Incredible stories, and you helped validate as well by sharing that story. Hannah and I met you at a Verve Festival in England in the summer of 2025, and you held an incredible workshop where you shared the information about lucid dreaming and took us through a practice. And I think that's so valuable. We can get information overload, and it's so important to take an action step towards. And I was sharing with Nisha and Norma, my dreaming space has taken off since these workshops. I've been accessing deeper information and ancestors, and I've been prone to nightmares in my life, and I've been feeling ecstasy and joy upon waking. I'm still holding that within my body, but just going back to that validating, because I've grown up in that space where Hannah and I would always share about our dreams, colour and music and song. And then we'd go and tell someone else and they'd roll their eyes and go, well, don't you remember your dream? No, I don't dream. It's so common that we hear that. Yet we had plugged into something in there, something important. So when you said it's so recognised in other cultures, just that validation has helped us be like, this is important, this thing that's going on in my inner experience. This is bigger than just going to sleep and processing things. And you touched upon that. You saw a being in a field, Norma. And I was wondering, as you were saying that, can we access information from other planets and other species? Is that what's happening? Is it helping us to evolve ourselves and our own planet when we're in the dream space and we're able to tune into the language that's unique to us?
Mm-hmm. See, there were very few people that I could talk to about that in the 70s and 80s, because they would just roll their eyes and think you were crazy, right? But nowadays, right, we are living in a time where like you're saying, for one thing, we have access to information and contact from all over the world, but we also have access to these multi dimensions of contact with beings. And I've had so many dream contact with beings from other dimensions, other planets. And I could never talk about that before. I didn't talk about it much, but it's very real, like you're saying. And I think they are in communication with humans all the time
Mhm.
and have been, and we have been having that kind of travel to other planets and other dimensions for eons of time on planet Earth, right? And it's been proven that now that there are these ancient cities that were very advanced that had intergalactic travel. And so, yes, we have contact, and it's coming to the fore again now. And with the age of Aquarius coming, they say that's one of the things that's going to be happening, is that humans all over the place are going to be admitting and being able to see and interact with beings from other places and other dimensions. And like you're saying, I think we need that help right now.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I've had dreams where they are coming to help us on planet Earth and to unite with us deeply and consciously.
Yeah, and I can give a few examples too from my own experiences because I do talk to people a lot and teach about how we have access to this knowledge, to these teachers, to these wisdom keepers in our dreams. And so, one dream experience that I had was setting a clear intention to meet with this particular energy. Again, I was studying dream yoga. I read a lot about the practices you can do in that space and connecting with guides in that space. And so I went to sleep with the intention to connect with what I was framing as the mother of dreaming and what that energy would be. And setting an intention before you go to sleep for your regular dreaming practice and your lucid dream practice is so important because that is the rudder of your ship. That's what guides you to the experiences that you'll have. So I had that really clear intention. I went to sleep, and then I became lucid within my dream because I was walking around in my dream, and then I had the thought, wait a minute, am I dreaming? And I performed what's called a state check or a reality check, which is an action you take to verify whether or not you're dreaming. So in this instance, I looked at my hands and I flipped them back and forth. And if you do that in waking reality, like I'm doing right now, they'll stay the same, they'll be your hands. But when you do it in a dream, something strange will happen. Maybe you're missing a finger, maybe you have extra fingers. One time I did it and I had lobster claws instead of hands. So that's a clue. Like it immediately triggers lucidity because it shows you, oh, this isn't waking reality. This is a dream. So in this dream, I did that. I flipped my hands back and forth, and my hands were glowing blue in this instance. I knew I was dreaming. And then I thought really hard, okay, what did I want to do? Because there's this membrane of forgetting that exists between waking reality and the dream time that you have to carry the memory over. And then I remembered, ah, yes, I wanted to visit this mother of dreaming energy. How am I going to find that? What is that even like? But I went and I flew up into the sky and I was flying around, and then I saw this big grassy field, and there was this straw figure of a woman sitting there in the lotus position. And I thought, well, that couldn't be her though, because that's just a, sculpture or whatever. But I flew back down around her, and then sure enough, I heard this voice that was in me, surrounding me, all around the space that said, yes, hello, I'm her that you were looking for. And then I was proceeded to ask all of these questions that I had on my mind about what life is all about the dream time, about all these experiences that I've been having. And she was right there with me and in me. And then I started to come back into waking reality, starting to wake up, and her voice was still there. And she was saying, now that you've connected with me in this space, I'm here with you in waking reality too, and you can call upon me and hear my voice. So that's an example of how you can meet these guides in the spaces, speak with them about fantastical things, get real downloads of information, and then take that into your waking life too.
Have you been able to connect with her in the waking life?
Yes, absolutely. You get just like when you meet a person and you feel their energy and you know them deeply, you form an intimate relationship with them. it's the same thing where when I'm calling to her and I feel her particular energy, then I know it's that voice that's coming through rather than my inner narration or some other voices. I can feel the really clear signature of her when I call upon her. And the beauty is that I can do that both in waking reality as well as revisiting that energy in the dream time. I have several guides that I visit in the dreams or come to me, and they'll be their own personalities. It'll be very individualized and also forming these relationships time and time again in the lucid dreaming space.
Wow. So some of these subjects are probably for some people quite outside of their everyday thinking. And perhaps when I reflect back to movies and stories I was told as a child, there was a lot of fear around extraterrestrials or multidimensional beings. But now it's becoming something I'm looking forward to contact with if I haven't already had it. And what can we do to help someone that might be listening that's carrying a little bit of fear and like, oh, I don't want to connect with that in my dream. Perhaps they're having nightmares, perhaps they're holding a lot of trauma in their body. What advice would you have if there's a little bit of fear or anxiety around receiving some of this information that might be brand new to people?
That's a great question. And it is something that a lot of people struggle with, and we teach a lot about because, especially within sleep paralysis experiences, which just to say what that is, it's when it's a natural thing that happens to a lot of people where normally when we go to sleep, our bodies are immobilized. So we don't act out our dreams, we're not moving all around. And what happens when you wake up in a usual situation is that wears off before your waking mind comes back online. But sometimes the reverse happens where your waking consciousness starts to come back online, but your body is still immobilized. And it's already scary because you're waking up not being able to move, but often that's accompanied by having a vision of a being or an entity being there, maybe holding you down or standing at your bedside. So many people have a fear, just like you're talking about, of encountering those energies in their dream space and not wanting to face them and not wanting to deal with them. And so I teach a lot about how, one, to deal with the energies, to become lucid in that sleep paralysis state where you know, oh, wait a minute, this is a sleep paralysis experience. Okay, my physical body is not going to be harmed. I'm in an in-between liminal dreaming state, so I can feel empowered in that. And then practicing strong boundaries where you're saying, okay, whatever energy is here, if it's feeling menacing, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want you in my space. And I tell people to even, you literally see it because you're in a lucid dream state, but have white light or golden light come out of your hands and enact a strong boundary. And then as you get more comfortable doing that over time, you can realize it's also about discernment. And so certain energies will come where, just like people, certain people you don't get along with that well or you don't want to relate to. So you're like, oh, actually, I don't think I'm going to have a conversation with you. But then other ones will come in and you can say, oh, wait a minute, you're friendly. I enjoy your energy. You feel like you might be a guide. And so then you can take away that fear because you've had enough experience of being lucid in that state, having boundaries in that state, and then knowing which energies you want to interact with. And so a lot of my guides have come in that sleep paralysis state too. And whereas before I might have been afraid or just tried to wake myself up, with this lucid dreaming practice and out of body practice, experiencing out of body experiences from that sleep paralysis state as a launching pad into an out of body experience, then I get excited about it. And even if it's an energy that I'm like, oh, I don't really want to deal with you, then I say, okay, go away, but now I'm going to have an out of body experience. Or if it's one that is an ally, then I say, oh, great, you're here. It's so nice to see you. And then able to have these amazing interactions.
That's great, Nisha. There's so much to experience in the dream time, as you can hear from her experiences. And I'll answer your question more from a psychological and counselor's point of view. Right? We get afraid of things because we've been hurt. We've had difficult experiences in our waking reality. And everybody has had some difficult experiences. And so, of course, we have fears that come up, and they do come out in our dreams. So we are here on planet Earth because we've chosen to be here to heal certain things in our lineage pattern, right? In our family heritage. We are here to heal those things. So that's a big thing to realize, right? We're not here to get crushed and to suffer and have a tragic ending. No, we're here to heal these lineage long patterns. And so when these things come up, Carlos Castaneda, for example, said we're meant to look over our left shoulder, which is the direction of death, and say to them, I see you. And like Nisha's saying, I'm not afraid. I'm here to deal. And I want to understand what you're trying to tell me. And so they're always trying to tell us something. And very often, when we just turn toward them courageously like that, right away they might shift in who they're presenting themselves as. They're not as scary, and they're telling us something that we need to know. So that's a good practice to have, to not be so afraid of what's coming up, even if it's very gruesome or scary. Really, we can peel that away. In our book, Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living, Nisha has the nightmare rewrite technique, where you can look at the scary energy and literally peel off the outer layer of the scariness that they're trying to frighten us with, peel that away. And underneath of that is the message, the messenger, and something that they're trying to tell us. And often it's a very childlike being who's just acting out or not very mature or something. And they're showing us something that we, as a wise being who are looking at it, can really receive the gift from it and understand what we need to do to change our ordinary reality life and to have more power in our lives. So we've got to be able to ground ourselves. I always talk to people about breathing techniques, and I spent many years doing deep meditation techniques. Yes, we have to get grounded and be physically safe. If you're not in a physically safe situation, please get to a physically safe situation. Get out of danger. That's the most important thing. You've got to listen to your anxiety and get out of a dangerous situation. That's important. But then once you're in a safe situation, then you can work on grounding yourself, doing breathing techniques, drinking and eating healthy things. And then your dream time will really start to be your friend and interact with you and giving you just the right message in the right moment so that you are picking up on what you need to live a healthy life.
One thing I really want to add to what you're saying too, and I know this is a big topic, but we can again get these cultural overlays or programming that gives us a lot of fear. So sleep paralysis, the beings that come, they're named culturally sleep paralysis demons. So that really scares people because they think, oh, this is demonic energy or entities. A lot of times people will call them too. And people will frame it in this way to try and have power over others by saying, oh, I'll deal with your entities that are on you, or oh, let me cast out the demons. That's a very old school framing of it all. But to understand, no, you can be personally empowered to deal with the shadows that are arising, the projections, the fear projections that are showing themselves to you. You can feel that you know how to have lucidity and strong boundaries. And then, really, rather than getting your power outside of yourself, externalizing it, you bring it back inside. So I always caution people if they're working with somebody that's overly focused on dealing with their entities for them, that might be a power over relationship. And really, your dream time and lucid dreaming, what's so beautiful about it is that it comes from within. It's the teacher within, and that's what we always encourage people to look towards, to turn their focus back into. And being raised in the journey to completion lineage and shadow work system that is so profound and powerful as a way to hold the shadow, to view it in a non-dualistic light, that really has helped me in my dream world and my dream practice to see things more non-dualistically and understand that the nightmares that are presenting themselves to me are shadow patterns that are wanting to resolve. And they're screaming out to be resolved a lot of times when they're a nightmare.
Yeah, non-dualism, right? That is the truth of the universe. And so many of the indigenous cultures are working with this non-dualistic cosmology. But in Western culture, we got really pushed into a very dualistic view of things where down and into the earth and into the subconscious and dream time is bad and evil and wicked and hell. No, that's not true, really. And that up is heaven, and that's where we should go, up and out. It's interesting that when your physical body experiences trauma, your consciousness goes up and out, but that's a trauma reaction to go up and out. And all the indigenous cultures teach that we've got to go down into the earth. The shamanic drumming journeys, you always go down into the earth, down into your unconscious, and that it's not a zone of hell or terror. It's a place where we have got to go to know ourselves and retrieve our lost parts. And then we can go into the upper world and meet beings of power. But then we have gotten our power back. And we're not going there to meet like a guru or a dominator. No, we're going with our power to be with beings of power. So isn't that beautiful? A more non-dualistic approach to it all.
The journey to wholeness. And in India, I was so blessed to be taught from these yogic masters, and we were taught mudras, which can be hand gestures, and they to evoke happiness. And all the elements are represented in our fingers, in our body. And they said that if when we do the OK sign, when we take our index finger to our thumb, that represents our divinity and that our humanity, and that we're bringing it together to make a complete wholeness. So when we give that, oh, it's okay sign, I was like, this means on a different level to me now, and getting it really spiritually. It's not just that it's all going to be okay. It's like we are human, we are having this human experience, but if we've forgotten that we're more than that, and it sounds like the dream time can really help us to integrate the humanness with the spirit, and that everything's connected, and it's not me, it is we, and there's so much healing potential there.
Yes, it's such a great statement about it. We remember that we are not alone then, which is a lot of what we're talking about. We're really not alone. We have so many helpers. I'm a person that's actually had a near-death experience too, where I was in a car accident and I actually died and came back. And I got to be going to the other side and meeting with these four beings that were there waiting for me. And I recognized them like my oldest, dearest friends of eternity, and got to be with them and talk to them for a long time. And one thing they told me to tell other humans is that there are beings like them, friends to each of us on the other side or in the other dimensions, that are there for us constantly and will be there for us when we die. And we all have them. So we're so not alone. And it was great for me to get to literally experience that so that I could tell other humans, yeah,
How
don't be
wonderful that you had a near-death experience and you're describing it as great.
right. Yeah, really right.
It gives reality such a different slant, and I hope it is dissolving a lot of fear and opening up really limitless potential for us as humans if we can integrate everything and bring it into that completion. But for those people that don't think that they're dreaming or have forgotten, where would be a good place for those people to start?
Yeah, that's a great question because it is the first place to start. You need to be able to remember your dreams in order to access all of these things that we're talking about. And it can be a very common issue for a lot of people not remembering their dreams, feeling like they're not dreaming. So, to reiterate, everybody is dreaming every night that they go to sleep. We have these sleep cycles we go through. We have REM sleep where the dreams take place. And so, nobody is not dreaming, but they're not remembering their dreams. And what you can do, a few simple things you can do to start remembering your dreams more regularly is first to silence the self-defeating talk of, oh, I can't dream. I never remember my dreams. And again, set that really clear intention. Carlos Castaneda is quoted by saying, intent is everything. Intention is everything. And with the dream time, that's really true. What we think will manifest in the dream space. So think, I can remember my dreams. Write that down before you go to bed. And then when you wake up, before you move, before you do anything, don't grab your phone. Don't look at that immediately. Instead, stay in the same position that you wake up in and try to remember anything about the dream. We've created this metaphor of catching the tail of the dragon for remembering your dream, where it's you think of your dream as this large dragon that's flying away as you wake up. And if you can even grab a little hair on the tail of the dragon, if you can remember one thing, a feeling you were just having, a color you were just seeing, a person that you were just talking to, an object you were just looking at, a scene, what space were you in? You try to anchor to any one of those points. And once you do, once you grab that tail, then you're able to climb back on the dragon's back and ride it back into the dream, where you'll find that a lot of the dream starts flooding and flowing back in once you remember one thing from it. So then the last part of what you really need to do is if you remember anything, even if it's just one phrase, you write it down. When you write down your dreams, you're signaling to your unconscious, this is important material for me to remember, right? Because our brains are constantly filtering what's important to remember, what's not. So you're showing, I want to remember this type of information. I want to remember my dreams. By writing them down, you anchor them in this waking reality, and then you'll start to see that you remember more and more dreams after that as you do these practices.
You have a beautiful imagery of that on your card deck. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and share with the audience? Our audience absolutely love oracle cards.
Oh, great. Yeah, Nisha created this method of working on our dreams and lucid dreaming through using an oracle deck, so it makes it more fun. We heard a lot of people saying, oh, I had a lucid dream once, but then it never came back, and I don't know what to do to lucid dream, or I can't remember my dreams, and I just forgot about it. And so she wanted to have a playful, interactive way to get people to keep working with their dreams. So with an oracle deck, you have to figure out how the cards will relate to a learning process and a forward moving learning towards something. So she lined the cards all up so that you could read the book that has each card described in it, like a training manual in dreaming and lucid dreaming. You could read this book straight from the beginning to the end, and it's a step-by-step training manual. But you can also draw cards and lay them out in a spread and find information that is pertinent to you in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And the cards have two parts to them. They have the lucid dreaming teaching in them, and then a lucid living message. So like a typical oracle deck, you're looking for a message for your life for that day. Well, the lucid living message is there for the training for yourself for that day, but then the lucid dreaming teaching is also there. So, and the cards are beautifully designed too. They're actually images from her dreams and from all of her dreaming and lucid dreaming work. So they're amazing images. So you can hear her stories in the cards too and learn a lot about what happens in lucid dreaming through reading the cards. And
Yeah.
they're just beautiful to look at too.
Yeah, it's a really fun, like my mom is saying, non-linear way to access the teachings of lucid dreaming and dream work in general. And if you're feeling stuck in your practice, because a lot of times people will maybe read one book or listen to a podcast about it, have one lucid dream, and then fall off of the practice. What we teach about is that it really is a skill set, like any other skill, and you build the muscle of lucid dreaming. And so through the oracle cards, you can get intuitively guided to, okay, what is my lesson plan for today or for this week or this month? And then pull several cards, and we have different spreads in the book that you can do. And then you get your personalized from your inner guidance, drawing the cards, lesson plan on this is what I need to be focusing on in my dream practice right now.
That's brilliant, because for like a meal plan for really busy people, they'll be like, how am I going to integrate and take action on this? So it's a really practical way.
Exactly.
And a lot of our audience, they are really busy. That's a whole piece in itself, but mostly women. And we wanted to tap into the power of women and women's cycles. Are there certain periods of a woman's life, or within the menstrual cycle, or within the season, within the year, any particular more potent portals of accessing the dream space, would you say?
It's really important to tune into that, right? We are here on planet Earth and living in these bodies that are very affected by the cycles of nature and the moon. So, of course, we know this, but when we are going into the time of having our menstrual period, we are more sensitive. Ancient cultures used to have actually, they call them moon lodges, right? The men had sweat lodges and the women had moon lodges where they would go at the time of their menstruation and be with other women and hang out in the darkness in the moon lodge and have food and drink brought to them, but so that for several days they could just stay in quiet and deep dream time activity because we're so available to the deep unconscious and the shadow during that few days of our menstrual period, right? So rather than it being, oh, I've got my period, that's a horrible thing. No, it's actually through all history was known to be the most powerful time for women to tune into the dream time, and the veils were thin then. So once a moon, right, we have access that's much, much stronger. So not to be afraid of that, but to rest and welcome what comes at that time. And then, of course, there are, like you're saying, the cycles of the year. There are the four major turnings of the seasons, and then there are what they call the cross quarter holidays. So there's 8 times a year, which are also highly sensitive transition moments. Transition moments, what does that mean? It means you're transiting from one place to another, from one consciousness to another. So the veil between the worlds is very thin, 8 different times throughout the year. So we should tune into those and take a day off and really honor those times, journal a lot, listen to our dreams, because the messages are coming through. It's amazing that we are living on a planet, right, that was set up in this harmonious cycle and flow in ways that are so beyond our understanding even that, but that we can tune in and be in the right cycle and in the right rhythm and listening to ourselves and be available to the liminal spaces at those times.
Yeah, I'll add to that that there are these cycles that are in our bodies that are externalized and within dreaming too. And a lot of times people will come to me and they'll say, well, once you start lucid dreaming, then can you lucid dream every single night? That's what I want to do. And we have this way in our culture of making things hierarchical, and lucid dreaming then becomes the pinnacle of dreaming. But really, no, I teach that it's important to value all types of dreams. The ones that are very transformational, as well as the ones that are very mundane. And sometimes it can even feel like the static of the day that your brain is processing. All of those dreams hold messages for you and are important to value. And you'll see as you start tracking your dreams, as you start writing them down, that your dream time works in these cycles too. And as a woman, it's beautiful to be able to then cross-reference and look at, okay, where was I in my menstrual cycle compared to what types of dreams were I having and at that time. And so as you get clearer on tracking all of these things, you can see these patterns begin to emerge. And we actually have an app that we're getting ready to launch that is a space tracking your dream time, and then you could sync it up with whatever methods you use to track your moon cycle too, and seeing, okay, where are these crossovers? When am I having more dreams like this? But again, just to reiterate, our dream time works in cycles as well. And so you may have periods of time where you're having a lot of lucid dreams and a lot of really transformational dreams. You may have periods of time where they're more mundane, but to really give equal importance to all the dreams that you're having, all the cycles that you're moving through. And when you see these patterns, it becomes very empowering because you see how much you're accessing constantly every night and every day.
And being guided.
And being guided too. Yeah.
Right. It like helps you to trust that we are operating in a bigger zone of consciousness, that we're interacting with, that we're not alone, that our cycles, the moon and nature, different natural guides are with us all the time. Like I work with the shamanic methods of the power animals too. So we're not alone in terms of being humans on the planet either. Like Rudolf Steiner said, the animals are a little lower than the angels, and they are given to us as our helpers and guides. So at different times of our lives, we might have a different animal at different times according to the type of qualities that animal has that we need. So when I was a child, the golden eagle was so important to me. And then as I grew older, for a period of my 20s and 30s, the snake became my main power animal. And then it was interesting how they both merged together and became the dragon. And in my later life, I've been able to handle having the dragon as my power animal. So welcoming the animal guides too. We teach in the Journey to Completion a special method called the Test of Four as to how you ascertain who is your animal guide for this time of your life.
Yeah, and I want to just emphasize the point of with your menstrual cycle. For myself, a lot of times in the tracking, I will find that when I'm getting close to bleeding, I will have a lot more nightmares and I will have a lot more shadow material arise. Just like my mom was talking about earlier, nightmares aren't to be looked at as curses. No, they are your unconscious mind speaking out to you saying, "Hey, here's some shadow material." It might be symbolic. It won't cross over necessarily one to one of, oh, this thing is happening in waking reality. I'm having a nightmare about it. No, it might be that you're having a hard time at your work. Your boss is being mean to you. And then in your dream, you're being chased by an evil pursuer and you're having to deal with that feeling, that oppressive energy. But when you are getting close to bleeding, I think a lot of women feel this, that the shadow arises to be dealt with. And so if you notice for yourself too, as you're listening to this, oh yeah, I can see that pattern where that comes up. Well, there's ways to deal with the nightmares that are appearing in that time of your cycle. And it actually is a gift that's presenting itself to you because it's wanting to be worked through and metabolized, and it's arising to the surface to be seen at that time.
Must be ready for it because we're never given anything that we're not ready for, even though it really feels like sometimes, no, it's too much. But there was so much in there. Thank you. You really helped inform. Hannah and I work with every new and full moon with our community, and we get them to track their physical, mental symptoms, their emotions. And we always say, and anything else that's coming through, but we'll probably add then, and what are you dreaming about? What feels significant? So that's really influencing our work as well. So thank you. And the sweat lodge, I knew of moon lodges and I've done sweat lodges, but it makes sense, like for the men and for the women, the slightly different ways of processing, being with their experience. So can you share a little bit about, we spoke about people that don't think that they're dreaming, but for those that are already connecting with their dreams, how are you working with people? Is that with your method? Is that with your course? How could people step a little bit more into the work?
Yeah, we're really excited right now because we're in a big launching time where we're launching many different online classes as well as retreats in the upcoming year. And we have two books out right now. We have the Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living Oracle deck. And then we also have a second book that is a more traditional book called Navigating Liminal Realms, which talks a lot about the shadow work, the shamanic work, and the Dreamtime lucid dreaming work, comparing and integrating the two for this art of psychonavigation, understanding how to navigate your psyche. So the books are great ways for people to start learning about our teachings. But then right now, if for this month of December going into January, starting January 18th, we're doing a 4-week series once a week of a live online class so people can join us from everywhere and learn about lucid dreaming and the shadow work and the nightmare integration work with us and a community of dreamers, which we're so excited to have. And it's going to be a really powerful opportunity to get to work in this way with everybody. And so that's one thing that's coming up very soon that we're really excited about as a way for people to learn from and work with us more deeply. And I'll just say it's for beginners to advanced dreamers because we're going to start off with the basics of dream recall and the foundations of lucid dreaming, then going into nightmares, how to work with them, and then towards the end, the more advanced lucid dreaming practices, which we've just touched at the tip of the iceberg of what you can do once you're able to have lucid dreams. Because then, like you're hearing, you're able to access this inner wisdom, this inner guidance, these external celestial guides, and so much information, both psychologically and spiritually, presents itself there. So we'll go into those practices as well.
Yeah, so that's exciting, the course that we put together. But Nisha's a beautiful designer of the visuals of the courses too, so you'll enjoy that. But I've been counseling people and teaching the Journey to Completion, right, for over 30 years. And so just for people to know about that too, the Journey to Completion is an ongoing, you can join a cohort and be in a training group where you get trained in a very adequate, I would say, very accurate way to go step by step into your unconscious and trace one pattern of the shadow that you're finding that is ripe to heal right now, and bring that all the way through, meaning that you get your power back from it and you change and you become a different person, a more empowered person when you walk this journey to completion path. And it's named that because that's what my Huichol teachers called it. And I worked with grandmother Guadalupe for over 20 years until she finally gave me permission to teach all that she had taught me. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for people to learn this ancient living system of how to go into our deep unconscious and harvest the shadow material and heal it. That's the journey to completion. So people can contact us to want to join one of those groups or do that work individually with me too.
And I'll say the logistics of where to find all of that. Our website is luciddreaminglucidliving.com. That's where you'll find all of the courses that we offer. We have several online right now, as well as links to both of our books for purchase and information about lucid dreaming, more about us, and a direct way to contact us for all of that. And then normaburton.com is where you find the journey to completion, working directly with my mom. And I do encourage people, if they want to dive deeply into shadow work, working with their past traumas. I can say this because I'm her daughter, but I think it's one of the best shadow work systems out there because it really adequately and accurately holds these shadow patterns in a complete system, which a lot of times it's more piecemeal out there. And then we also have our Instagram, which is the same name, Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living. That's our handle. Same for TikTok.
Nisha puts out a lot of good information.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of bite-sized information there and our YouTube channel. So if you just want the free information we're offering out there, there's so many ways to find it on our social channels too.
And we'll link to all of those in the show notes. But just to say thank you so much. It's such a rich lineage and some really great different ways to work with you. And even just in that one session, as I say, my dream space has taken off, and I'm really excited about the future, because what would have been really hard to handle experiences in the dream time and might have left that residue on me all day long, and perhaps all worrying there's something really wrong within me, I'm actually feeling very liberated and empowered, which you're saying. So thank you. And it really feels like it's just shifting the collective forward when we do this. We're helping to come back to that sense of completion and unity, which we've forgotten. We were living in that illusion of. So I'm really excited for our audience to step a little bit closer to you. And is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
Well, first of all, I just love the way that you ask us the questions and think about things. We're just so on the same wavelength that it's beautiful to interact with you. And I hope that your audience really does dive into the Dreamtime, and that you have many more good podcasts and information for them, right? Because to wake up and be joyful and not afraid, that is a tremendous gift. So I love hearing you talk about that. As far as anything else to share, I'm just encouraging young women to take advantage of these times that we're living in and really explore their own deep inner guidance system, because we don't have to be subject to powers that be telling us about ourselves so much as really trusting our dreams and our inner guidance system to develop, so that we're getting empowered from within and not giving our power away.
Yeah, and the final thing that I'll add, or maybe just reiterate, is that lucid dreaming, if you're feeling excited about this or having a spark around it, it is a skill. A lot of people think, oh, there's just gifted dreamers out there. There's just people that have access to this, and that's not me. I can't do that. I could never do that. But no, we teach a system, and you can also find many systems out there that teach the steps that you do in waking reality to have lucid dreams at night. And it's a skill that I believe anybody can learn. Anybody can remember their dreams if they dedicate themselves to it enough, and then they can get into the practice of lucid lucid dreaming. So really don't feel discouraged if you're having a hard time accessing your dream time or lucid dreaming. It's a practice. It may come natural to some, but also if you work towards it, you really can access these realms. And it's like my mom is saying, it's our birthright to be able to go into the dream time and to access the deep knowledge and wisdom that exists in there. So just one last word of encouragement for everyone listening, that it is yours to have if you want it.
Yeah, so beautifully put. I'm really excited for your app, and I need to get your book, and I probably want to work within your containers. I'll be in your world. You'll definitely be in my world.
That's so exciting.
So thank you so much. And for our audience in particular, linking it to your own moon cycles and really tuning into your unique powers as a woman, and that reclamation of your body, of yourself and your being. So there's so much healing potential, and we really appreciate you. So thank you so much for your time, and wishing you a beautiful year ahead.
Thank you too. It's been a joy speaking with you today.
What an amazing conversation with Nisha and Norma. I was literally hanging on their every word. I loved meeting them in person, and to have them on the podcast felt like such a privilege. And I just wanted to let you know that we are welcoming them into our membership, the Healing Portal, to run a workshop session for us. So this is not just information, this is moving into the practical skills to start your lucid dreaming journey. So I'd love to point you in the direction of some of their resources, which I'm going to share. To go to the show notes to find out about their new course, which is launching, their app, their website, their contact details. But if you've been thinking about working more closely with us and would just like to start dipping your toe into lucid dreaming, then come inside the Healing Portal. We're going to be having this hours workshop happening in January, which will always be available in the Healing Portal, where we can all start our lucid dreaming journey together and continue the conversation over there.
Thank you a million times over for joining us on this podcast episode. You can support the show by giving us a follow on any podcast platform you're listening to this on. If you already follow us, then thank you so much. And maybe share this episode if you think of someone, if someone comes to mind where you think they'd really benefit from listening to this. This is one way that we like to spread the love with our friends, is sharing podcasts or playlists. So let them know that we're thinking about them. So just send it on to them with a few words about why they might enjoy it. And if you'd like to check out any of our in-person events or retreats or our online offerings, head over to our website, www.holistichealthcollective.co.uk. We'll see you on the next episode.